Shenanigans, we have made it, and let's open that up. And get to chopping some soybeans. Technically it should probably have turned right there because I don't really want to be smacking the pipe up against a tree anytime. That can be a pricey fix, but we're good. Okay, so I think this works out pretty well. We can harvest these fields. We can grab the Massey Ferguson with the batwing and mulch them while we harvest the next field and the next field. John Deere can haul soybeans as and when needed, and the Deutz can plant fields. So one of the things I did not check on this field was what was the environmental score. Now that we are harvesting, I think the environmental score gets updated. I'm not sure if we have to wait till the end. Let's take a look. This field is now 99. It is pristine. This field is nitrogen and pH. We will, once we harvest this, that will fix. That one is tillage, which I can't do anything about, and all the things. So, because this is soybeans, I'm expecting nitrogen to perfect score. Just because soybeans don't have a nitrogen requirement, so the only option is perfect score. Lime may be tricky. I think we looked at the field we just purchased and lime was perfect on that. So we're good with that one. It was just the tillage we're going to be penalised for. But this field's just maxed out on environmental score. Looks like the yield is a little bit lower than last year, but that's because we are soybeans, not, I think, barley on this field last year. Obviously a very obvious gradient there where we are very likely changing soil type as we move through this area. Okay, Deutz is still seeding, can't see it from here. It has 53% seed in it. And it's now running full, should be running full length of that field, so that's a good thing. Did we check on store sales today? I'm sure we did. But I can't really look to that while we're dealing with the headlands here. But, okay, so we're going to have a good supply of soybeans this year. I'm kind of thinking, obviously the best time to buy a field if it's got crop in is if it's got soybeans in. You might lose points on tillage, you might lose points on nitrogen, not nitrogen, on the other thing that's not nitrogen, pH, but you will not lose points for nitrogen. And the problem with buying a field is you have to harvest it to get the updated nitrogen and pH point score, and doing that can result in, because you didn't have control over what was going on with the field, your overall farm environmental score is lessened, and you then have to live with the issue that you're not going to get as big a bonus payment when you sell stuff for the entirety of the next year. Which is kind of why buying a fallow field is obviously better, because I can lime it, I'm controlling how it's tilled, and I can maximize those scores before a crop goes in it. I'm going to have to pay for the crop, I'm going to have to pay for fertilizer and lime and what have you, but the field is in the best condition I can make it. Now it might only score me 50% for the coming year, but if I'm holding on to all of the produce until everything's been harvested, I don't care that my the environmental score on a field is 50% when I start. It's when I sell stuff that it's a problem. Now I'm going to lose out a little bit on our perishable sales because we're going to do that over the course of the year. I think our environmental score has been hovering around 11%, yeah, 10-11% is what we're making here at 86 score. If I can get the score higher, then obviously I can. It's potentially at 100%, you get plus 15 sale bonus on everything you sell at a sell point that observes environmental scores. The grocery store does not, so we don't get a bonus selling at the grocery store, but we do everywhere else. Okay, that's a good start. We're almost full. That's nice. So we need to go and jump into the John Deere, bring the truck over, and for the soybeans, yeah, we're unloading into the silos at the arable farm, so don't have too far to drive to empty this. I'm generally doing that all the time. I will unload into the farm silos, and then when I've got the opportunity I will ship it to where it needs to go. And there we go. So for example there, when we're harvesting oats, I will drop the oats at the silo, and then on a day where I'm not busy doing farm work or contract work, I can take the time out to take the oats over to the flour mill, start the flour mill up and get some flour produced. But I'm not in any rush. I've got to get, as soon as it comes off the field, I've got to start producing flour. I mean, you've seen how much flour we've got sat at the flour mill, and I am going to have to transfer that probably before September 3. But anyway, we need to get that unloaded. How's the Deutz is doing good. And the obvious thing there is, obviously with a bigger seeder I could get that job done a whole lot faster. But right now, that's not happening. Anyway, let's get this thing unloaded. I might bring the Land Rover over and attach it to the header trailer. Just move it out of the way. Okay, let's jump out of that, jump in the Land Rover. I should have done this a lot earlier. And my other options are using a small tractor, like the Massey Ferguson, to cart the header trailer around. But again, if I want to do tasks with the Massey Ferguson, I can't be having it hitched up to the header trailer as well. So that's a good thing. And also, The advantage with having a vehicle hitched up to this is it's less likely to play silly games when I'm trying to drop a header on it. You can move this round to here, and that would be just, well, would it be just Andy? Actually, no. I was thinking it would be fine to park it there, but eventually the Deutz is going to get down here and it's going to complain that it's blocked by something. So we will park it over. Oops. We'll crash into a hedge stick. We'll park it over here where the Deutz has already been. Okay. You are fine and dandy there. Harvester is doing good. We will fold the thing, lock the thing, going to look at stores. Oh, the Valtra G, 40-foot Fent header, that's nice. And what the heck is that? That is a disc harrow, shallow cultivation, 180 horsepower, 5 meters. Yeah, it's a thing. We don't currently have harrow, cultivator or anything like that, so I can't do cultivating contracts with my own equipment. I am not actually sure that that piece of equipment works as a cultivator for cultivation contracts. I have heard differing stories where you absolutely must use a cultivator, a subsoiler or disc harrow or power harrow may not do the trick. Now, I'm not sure. I haven't really tested it. I probably should test it out. But that's a nice cheap piece of kit. It's only 5 meters. Frankly, do I need a 5 meter harrow? Probably not, especially since we're not doing direct drill. Oh, sorry, we are doing direct drill. So I generally don't need to cultivate a field before I start working it. However, when we start planting things like sugar beets and corn and the other thing, what's the other thing? Sunflowers, maybe. Those seeders tend not to be direct drills, and so we would need to cultivate before we can plant with them. And if that's the case, well, it's going to hurt the environmental score, but I will need some sort of cultivator to fix the ground before we can seed them. There are a couple of direct planters, but not that many. But I'm not getting into planter territory at this time. We have the draper, and the draper will harvest every single crop we are growing at this stage. To do corn or sunflowers, I would need a corn header or a Helianthus header for the sunflowers if I just did sunflowers. And that's an extra expense. I would have to buy a header for the harvester that we already had. If I got into, and a seeder, because we don't have planter for that. If I wanted to get into sugar beets is great income, but I would need a big giant harvester, which is going to cost $500,000, and a seeder, and a planter. So it's usually, I think it's better to go in stages, since we are using seeders and planting mostly cereals or soybeans. It's just better for our particular situation to stick with those crops until we have a surplus of cash that we can say, actually, it's time to think about planting other things. And then, mess with it from there, I guess. But for right now, Oh, I'm missing. Oh, miss. For right now, we're still sort of consolidating our equipment. I don't have the seeder I want. I want something that's 8, 9, 12 meter work width, so that we can actually do the work quicker. And also, given our equipment, I don't want to be buying a 4 or 5 meter planter when I could just buy, adjust the camera so I'm actually looking down the line. Because again, I'm not making best use of the John Deere, and frankly, it's another crop that's going to take its time out of our day. I guess we are actually yield at some points on this field is actually better than whatever we had growing in here last year. That's good. 62%. I'm not sure if I have the capacity to do 2 rows of soybeans here. Now, one of the reasons I am not doing cut-ins at the moment is because I don't have GPS, so I can't line up the harvester precisely on a pre-planned row and harvest from there outwards. So for most efficient working, I am just going to do consecutive rows as we work our way across the field and just live with it. Okay. We're up to 80%. I'm not sure if it's 20% per row or just under. Ooh, it's taking a risk, but let's do it anyway. Oh, so we had a little bit of fun at work on Friday, oh, it's 4:30 on a Friday, and we have a production issue. Customer is not happy. We need to make the customer happy, and it's because of the way IT has programmed some rules for the business, the way they asked for it. It's sort of, these rules are causing us problems. We just want to break the rules in this situation. So can you change the program? And initially, if you work all weekend, can you get it done by Monday lunchtime? And I was sort of thinking about it, and it's like, I'm not sure I can have a solution invented by Monday lunchtime, let alone code it. So they sort of, well, how about Friday next week? So it's sort of, that's more likely. Again, there's going to be some design. I've got to consider all the implication of what the system currently does and figure out how to accept the rule that they've insisted we have in place for every other customer. And it's kind of a case of, well, we want the rule changed, but only for this customer. So I can't make wholesale changes to the system, because most of the time when you do that, it affects everybody or nobody. And they want just this customer is different. So, okay, fine. And we don't want anything else messed up. So, and they were just talking over the issues with the customer, which frankly I'm not involved in. I'm the IT guy. You tell me what you want done, and I'll try and figure out a way of making the system do what you want done. But I'm not interested in the ins and outs of details with the customers and everything else, because I don't want to know that stuff, because I might tell people about it, and that's, trade secret information type of thing. So, okay. But I have to check, I have to figure out a fix. So, just before we hung up, I messaged my boss and said, there might be a way around this. I think I have a way. So he raised it in the conversation, basically. He said, okay, Neil thinks he has a way. Sorry, Osa said thinks he has a way. And it probably won't take long if he starts it now. It'll be done, because they then said, oh, that sounds awesome. When can you have it done by? Monday next week? I said, if we hang up now, I can probably have it done before home time. Brilliant. Okay. So I made the programming change, and I had the guy who was wanting the change made to test it, because quite frankly I wasn't entirely familiar with the ins and outs of what they were trying to do. I knew what they needed to do, but I didn't know how to make it, what to enter to make it happen. So they entered a couple of sample orders, ran the tests. Yes, it worked. And my boss says, put it in production. So I started to put it into production. And because we're a private company, we don't have, Congress breathing down our necks with all sorts of paperwork requirements. We have to meet the paperwork requirements of the corporate owners, not the shareholders. And basically Congress has made laws on how computer software is installed on corporations that are public companies, because you don't need to be causing problems for the investors. Okay, fair, but we don't have any investors, so we don't have much in the way of paperwork. However, our boss came to us last week, and we had to go to a sales demonstration of some software which is similar to software I've used in the past, which is used because of Congress requirements, or congressional requirements, laws, things. And it was sort of, okay, we had the sales pitch, which was, yes, we can do everything. If you're doing stuff we can't do, you probably shouldn't be doing it, type of thing. We meet all of the congressional laws. We don't necessarily meet the flexibility of a private company. So, okay, fine, there's that. And we had a technical meeting on Monday with our bosses and a couple of the programmers who went to the sales demo. And one of the programmers was basically, well, they're trying to sell you something. Of course they're going to tell you that their package is all singing, all dancing, and will take the dog out for a walk after you've had supper. And you might come to regret buying it, but you're not going to be telling anybody it's a bad package, because you just spent tens of thousands of pounds or dollars buying it. So, okay. But so I'm putting this emergency fix into production, and it just dawned on me that, well, this package you're intending to buy won't actually let us do this ever again. And so I sent a message to my boss to say, you do realise that package we talked about on Monday, we couldn't do this if we had it. He was like, yeah, the moment I said put it into production, it immediately crossed my mind, if we buy that package, we're not going to be able to do this. So, yeah, that's a thing. But we're not under restrictions yet, so we can do stuff in an emergency, and get it done very, very quickly. But yeah, if we had that application installed, I could get the programming done assuming that the program I'm changing isn't being changed by anybody else, in which case I would have to liaise with them to get it released. And some people go home early on Friday. They arrange their schedule, so I can leave at 4 on Friday. So there's a lot of people who aren't there on Friday, and one of them may have the program I need to change locked out to them, and I can't do anything with it until they release it, and they're not going to release it until they come back into the office on Monday. And I have to push it up to test, and it has to be tested, and it has to go through the test cycle, and then it has to be approved for production and everything else, and then I can push it into production. But potentially that programming change I did and completed at about 10 after 5 on Friday, I can't put it into production until lunchtime Monday at best. And potentially, if it's a program that we have, some of our programs you can't put into production during business hours because it creates a conflict when you remove the old version and put in a new version. So there's sort of a situation where, well, this is one of those programs that you can't stick in during business hours and you have to wait till night time. I would have to wait till 10 o'clock on Friday night or Monday night before I could put it in, which means the fix wouldn't be in production until Tuesday. Emergency fix. Must be done. So, that might come up in a future discussion. Okay, how do we put in an emergency fix when we have your package? Because that's a problem. Anyway, 10,800. Oh, we didn't make the end of the road. I was wondering if I was going to make it out. Engine was still running. I believe leaving a tractor with the engine running does cause wear and tear on it, so increases the maintenance needs, but not so much for the attached implements. So this trailer is not aging while it's attached to the tractor, only while the tractor's moving. I think that's the case. And then so same with the harvester. The harvester is now racking up maintenance points, but the header is not, because the header is not active. They have to turn that on. So even driving around with the header attached doesn't cause wear and tear to the header because it's not running. Tipper is running when it's moving. I think if it's got wheels on the ground. So there's the potential a sprayer will never age unless it's turned on. But the towed sprayer we have will age, or will take wear damage because it's got wheels. So driving around will cause wear, and running it will cause wear. But I think it's the same rate. That would be an interesting thing to test, I guess. Put a sprayer on the back of a tractor and just drive around for an hour and see how much the sprayer has worn out, or wear indicator, and then stick a sprayer on the back of a tractor and go spray a field for an hour, and again see if it wears out as much, less, or what. And then just stick one on the back of a tractor